can imagine your brainstem, your spinal cord, and then your big brain sits on top. There's nothing tethering your brain to your skull, right? It's floating in fluid. So what happens is as your head potentially gets banged around, right? This is pretty heavy and pretty big compared to the rest of it. So what happens is you have a trauma and you hit your head, or you have a whiplash, and maybe you don't even hit your head, but you get this big jarring of your neck. Well, as that big bowling ball inside your skull moves, because it's so much heavier than your spinal cord and or so much bigger, I guess I should say, than your spinal cord and your brainstem, because of this action, it kind of does something like that. And that's what Dr. Lauren's is talking about in terms of that like twisting of the brainstem. Now, we know this to be 100% true because when people have major traumatic brain injuries, they end up in a coma. The reason is because they have what's called diffuse axonal shearing, where these big fibers come down from the brain through the brainstem into the spinal cord, and they actually get tethered, they get sheared. Whereas people with mild traumatic brain injuries, under imaging like an MRI, you won't see that shearing, but the same kind of twist is happening with just a little less trauma, right? So it's still affecting the function, but you can't quite match the structure of that to the function, which is why people with mild traumatic brain injuries have so many problems. But a lot of times when you look at an image, everyone's like, your brain is fine. And I think the other piece of it with every brain injury, now people have more severe brain injuries. Usually if you knew that person pre or post, they may look a little different. They may act a little different. Like, you know, there might be some discrepancy there. People with mild traumatic brain injuries, usually you look at them and you're like, wow, you look great, right? We haven't heard from you in a while or whatever. Like they usually don't have, you know, some people do have personality changes and things like that, but it's just not as drastic. And so the outside world looking in, you know, doesn't really notice that as much.